Hello. We are live. You are live on First Friday Live. And I'm MJ. And I'm not sure what my camera angle looks like today, but never mind. We are where we are. We're live on LinkedIn and we're live on YouTube and we are live and very excited. I have a guest today on First Friday Live that is can only be described as, well, the boss of personal development, the boss of connecting people and ideas and ways of being well. If it wasn't for this amazing gentleman, I would never have been connected to the Magnificent Seven, and I'm sure he's going to talk to you about that. And if he doesn't, I will. All about how I am with my health and my wealth and my relationships and my work and really how my spirit, body, and soul really work together, really as one thing. And over the last 5 years, I've had the privilege of not only watching him, but learning from him and learning with him and walking alongside him. And he is probably his greatest number one super fan. If there's a super fan to be, I'm probably it. And the gentleman I've got tonight, I think he's produced over 30 books. He's an international little star for me. Stage speaker, he's a motivational speaker, but more than that, he connects people in the room with the power of his lived energy. He literally brings the energy into the room. And when you hear the testimonials, if you see any of his websites, you'll see why people really do just go on about him. And I probably sound a bit strange, but for me, I am honoured and grateful to have the amazing Pete Cohen on First Friday Live tonight. And if I am capable, I will be able to bring him on stage. And I think you're in for a treat. I know I am because I get to spend an hour with him, which is like really exciting. And I think you're going to learn some incredible pieces of wisdom. He often drops mics all over the place. And I think we are better together. Look, I'm going to invite him onto the stage because I think that you shouldn't wait any longer. I couldn't be more grateful to have with us the amazing and incredible and outstanding Pete Cohen. I think he's already on the stage, is he?
I
See,
am.
you see, I shouldn't even say that. You're already there. So we've talked about you, with you instead of without you. How are you?
I am very good. And I'm just very pleased to be here with you, my friend, having worked with you for how long? 5 years, maybe? Is it more? Five?
I bet, who knows? Do you know, I look and I think it's only been about 5 minutes, hasn't it? It
Well,
feels like
it's been an amazing ride. When I think of all the people that I've had the pleasure to get to know, to walk alongside, to become friends with, to guide them in some way, what you've done, who you've become, what you've achieved is magnificent. And I've said this to you a few times. You're the most capable person I know, which is a very ironic thing to say to someone who finds themselves in a position like this morning where you were waiting for a taxi and it was 3 hours late and you were on your way to a speaking engagement. And despite that, you still find a way. You always find a way. And, you're a little bit of a role model to me, actually, MJ, if I'm being brutally honest.
that's not as uncomfortable as it used to be. It appears that you're helping me through your incredible coaching program, and I just we can get onto that because I don't think people understand the magic. But I want you've heard. I know I've talked a lot about you before you got here. You're already here, but I'd like you to tell everybody about you. I mean, my question really is, is who's Pete?
Well, that's something I'm really still working on. You and I both know someone, Dr. Ray Sylvester, who's been guiding me, coaching me, mentoring me. He's been my friend also. We met him in the same place. We met him on Clubhouse. And that's really the big question that he keeps asking me, who are you? And for me, for so much of my life, who I was actually dependent on what other people were saying about me, which is really quite strange now when I stop and look at it. Like, why would I why is it so important about what people think about me? Well, for so much of my life, I had what a lot of people call imposter syndrome, where feeling that I wasn't good enough and not feeling good enough, I was looking for a couple of things. I was looking for validation, I was looking for acceptance, I was paranoid of being rejected. You say, who am I? Well, I'm someone who's 55 years old. I was born in 1970. Very fortunate to have two incredible parents. But from the age of about 5 years old, a few things happened which just basically set in motion this idea that there was something wrong with me. I was diagnosed with learning difficulties. I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I suppose now they would call it attention deficit disorder. They'd probably call it a number of different things. And I actually remember really clearly being very discouraged by that. I remember when I was 6, I was actually asked to go and be in another classroom with people that were younger than me. And I actually remember it kind of like it was yesterday. That was like an imprint of going, why is this happening to me? There must be something wrong with me. And my discouragement really led me to want to be recognized, want to be accepted, wanting to be validated. And I think that's been the driving force for so much of my life, where I've managed to do lots of great things from an intentional point of view. If someone was looking at the success that I've had, you said 30 books. It's not 30, not yet. It's 20. And, I've spoken all over the world. I was on television for many years. I had my own TV show. I've worked with world and Olympic champions in sport. To the outside world, you'd think, wow, you've obviously been super intentional. Look what you've achieved. But my inner world, MJ, has been riddled with insecurities, imposter syndrome. I burnt out massively in my 20s with chronic fatigue, which is really just a classic sign of someone who isn't really looking after themselves. And, a few things have happened over the last few years that you know about that have been the biggest game-changing experiences where my life cannot be the same again, where, it's like this waking up to my inner world. My inner world has been so much determined or dependent on what's happening with other people. But, I'm going through a huge transformation at the moment. And actually, I've taken on a brand new client who I'll tell you about maybe a little bit later on. But that's kind of, a little bit about me. What about you?
Well, I was going to say, you know me from Clubhouse was where I was going really with thinking. I was thinking, well, yeah, what do you know about me? As I thought about who you were and what I knew about you.
Well,
Um,
why don't I tell you? I mean, it's interesting, right? Because you you can talk about yourself, but it's funny. My Dr. Ray said to me, it's really interesting. He might actually be watching this now. I hope he is. He said to me, you've probably worked with lots of people that if you had to tell me about that person, you would know a lot, you know? And I know a lot about you. I mean, I have listened to you for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I probably listened to you more than probably anybody else I've ever listened to. And I've really got to know the essence of who you are. I saw the essence of you in a way that I don't think you saw that in yourself, in the way that Ray has helped me start to see the essence of who I am. I think we all need people to help us see the essence of who we really are behind all of the challenges, the trauma, the lived experience, the trauma that comes along with that. And when I see who you've become, one of the things you said to me, that you have felt so othered for so much of your life. And I thought, what does that mean? And I listened in, you know, and why don't you share with us? Because I felt that as well, I think. But what do you mean when you say you felt othered for so much of your life?
I know, and it's one of the things, I remember being very angry on Clubhouse and a bit reactive, and not responsive because I was in a very difficult space. I'd been at that point put in a hospital bed in my 5-floor house without a lift and no toilet. So I was sat with a potty in a hospital bed, with a family that could navigate the rest of the house, but very difficult, right? Because they've got needs too, but I couldn't get to them. Very, very challenging. And so I felt trapped. And not only, trapped in my chair at that point, but trapped in my house, trapped. We were all trapped in COVID. But for disabled people, we always felt that, right? And then COVID highlighted it for everybody else. Isolation, othered is when you are not included, when I am not included, when I was not included in sports, when I was not included in school, when it wasn't important for a curriculum in hospital, when I was allowed just to play Scrabble, in fact, encouraged just to maybe have a go at Monopoly now and again, but the nurses didn't like it because I always won. Um, Scrabble too, most of the time. Great learning, great to hear nurses' life. And you know what nurses are like. I'm not being funny, but they literally bear all. And I was a young person with a big mouth because I came from a very difficult background. So when I was included in relationships, that felt interesting. But I listened to something earlier, which was a gentleman that said, and he's I think he's a psychotherapist and a social worker. So I went, my ears pricked up, right? And he said, the problem with practitioners is they go in, particularly with SEN, us, learning difficulties, and they go, "Oh, you're amazing. I'm your friend. I'm your friend. I'm going to
Mm,
share with you like you're my friend." And then they leave because it's a new job. And they leave SEN kids devastated because they haven't stated the context in which they are with them. They haven't stated their intentions. They've hidden behind the fact that they're disappointed, that they know that these people, them, the people they're serving, don't have a life that they deem is worth living, and they don't either.
mm.
So the othering is about exclusion, but it's also about being excluded because other people are really uncomfortable with the fact that you're already excluded. So that's like the double tragedy or the
Yeah.
double empathy problem. Damien Milton calls it the double empathy. So when people look at a neurodivergent person or a person that's dyslexic, dyspraxic, autistic, any of those things, and they go, they're not very like me, are they? They don't have empathy. Well, actually, autistic people generally don't empathize externally because they've been so othered, mothered, and smothered that they go inside and they lock down and they don't share that because they're too frightened of the response because they don't understand how humans respond. Because they do respond, you see, with empathy, in my opinion, and actually they don't play the game. So I'm neurodivergent. I'm going to feel othered just by communication differences.
Yeah.
Before we begin with the chair, the bed, the lift, the taxi, the
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I've got to see how you move through the world, and you're one of the most, obviously, as I said, one of the most intentional people. I mean, because you have to be, because every time you go out of the house, you're faced with multiple situations that have required you to be intentional, and then faced with things like today where you're having to wait 3 hours, and it's just incredible when you take time out to look at how someone else moves through the world. If you take time out to really think about how does someone else think, and this is what I've been doing, recently I've been really stopping to really take some time out rather than thinking about what everyone else is
Mm.
thinking about and how I can help everybody else. I'm actually taking a real time to think about what am I thinking and how's that
Excellent.
affecting how I'm feeling.
Mm.
Because like you, I actually felt othered for a long time in my life. Like I'm not like everybody else, and I need this acceptance, and I need to be avoid rejection at all costs. And it's that inner world that I'm so fascinated by everyone else's inner world, but I've neglected my own, if
Mm.
you like. And I think that's one of the things again that I've just so admire about you, as you have seriously gone to work on your inner world. And when I look at the changes that you've made and what you have built in your organization, I think it's a direct correlation between the internal work that you've done. Is that
Well,
right?
well, when we talk about Gestalt psychotherapy and what's in the foreground and what's in the background, or what's in the self and what's in the other, of course it's a mirror. And earlier, when you talk, it takes me a little to process things. I have to slot it into my brain, leave it for a moment, let it stew, and it comes back out, right? And I've learned that about myself. So people think that I'm going off on a tangential conversations me and some GPs talked about today. But we always know it's purposeful when we get together, right? So when you said, it's true. It's
Well,
true.
I mean, what you've heard me speak. I mean, that's one of the things I've had to learn to rein in a little bit because
Mm.
I'm very neurodivergent, and I can talk about something, and then immediately I start talking about something else, and then something else. But I'm actually quite good at then bringing them all back together. But for some people, they'll be looking there going, "I'm really confused."
For a bit, for a bit,
For a bit.
until they watch the patterns. And the pattern for me, all right, in Clubhouse, and I'm going to go back to that, is as I thought about who you were and who I was, and what that meant for me and where this began. I mean, how intentional do you have to be, Pete, to get up at 4 a.m. every morning? Well, I know now because it was something that you shared with me. And until then, I've been an early riser, but I'd never intentionally chosen and selected a time for me, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody's up at 4 a.m., hopefully. People have started knowing that I'm awake now, so they can go and do one. But it's true about sort of 5:30, people are like, hello. And I'm like, haha, no, no. But that time was for me, and you taught me, intentional living. Now I know what that means for me, and I know about some other things about you about intentions, but tell me about what intentional living exactly. Intentions. So
Yeah.
first of all, the first one was intention, wasn't it? You had the S
Yeah.
part. Tell
So
me what it is for you.
so I started a business in 2016. In fact, the lady who you just had on before, Kate Caruth, has been a massive part of my 365. She was actually a client as well, and then she ended up, working with us. My 365 was something we started in 2016. It was a coaching business that we started. I wanted to call it Me 365, ME, but that had gone. Me365.me, that domain had gone, but MI was there, and I thought about it. And the I in the my could stand for lots of things. And I wrote this down many years ago. I actually wrote down the word intentions, but I also wrote down identity, my imagination, my investment, me investing in me for 365 days. And
Mm,
that's what we started doing with people, helping people make positive changes in their life, helping people break habits, um, build their confidence, become more active. And we built a big community, and it was great. It was a business that my wife and I started. But when we were actually on Clubhouse, we met some incredible people. Me meeting you, but meeting Dr. Ray Sylvester was also one of those people. One of the things with an audio platform, what happens is your brain has to work in a different way because you can't see the person. You might see a picture, but
mm,
it really stimulates, I think, part of your nervous system, your intuitive nature, to kind of get a sense of who someone is. And I
mm.
got such a strong sense of, hang on, there's something about this person. I don't know what it is. And he felt the same thing about me. And we have been working together. And he said, the MI should be my intentions 365. And that's really where we're at the moment in terms of helping more people or supporting people or guiding people in being intentional. And what does the word intention mean to you? Because I think it means different things to different people. But I'm curious as to someone like you, who I see as super intentional. What does the word mean to you?
It means, what does it mean to me?
It's a good question.
It's an excellent question. It means quietening the noise.
Wow.
That's what it means in all aspects, because the noise is either my internal monologue, and remember that monologue, and I'm sure you know, when you think about our childhoods, school, being held back, not having a pen. I had to write in pencil because I was left-handed. They gave me an ink pen. I got ink everywhere. They told me I was useless. They stopped me having a pen. Everyone else had a pen. I had a pencil, like a big chunky pencil. And I was just treated like I was three, all the time. That feeling, right? The noise in that feeling is, this lot aren't even me. I'm not even meant to be here all the time. All the time it gets louder and louder, in my opinion. And every time it gets reinforced, the noise gets louder. I think it turned into tinnitus for me. It turned into inflammation. It turned into my heart being broken every time I was rejected. It turned into noise, and that noise just got louder, and the voice got louder, and the other people's voices. And intention is about saying, I hear you, but unfortunately, right now, I can't attend to you. I accept that you're there, and I recognize and acknowledge you. And the way I used to at the beginning, before I met you, I used to achieve it in the most chaotic times was I used to imagine being on a stage, interestingly. Nobody there except the noise, them on the stage with me. And I used to send them behind those big, dark, red, heavy curtains, and I'd say, I'm sorry, I'm on the stage right now. Get behind the curtain. And they'd say, what now? And I'd say, yeah, when I've finished, I'll acknowledge you. And then when I'd finished, they'd say, oh, yeah. And I'd say, no, I'm really very sorry right now. But you'll appreciate that I've already got on to something else now. So I'd appreciate for you to get behind the curtain.
Wow.
Muffle them. That's the intention for me. And that's how I control the
Wow.
noise.
It's great. It's so interesting to find out what it means to people. And I have that feeling as well. Or it's not even a feeling, it's a focus,
Mm,
because if you don't stop and become aware of what you're thinking and the impact that your thinking has, it's actually hard to be intentional. And what's really interesting to me is when you see people be super intentional in terms of they just block out the noise and they do what needs to be done, even if that thing is going to be difficult. And as you know, my wife, who passed away in 2023 after having been given 18 months to live in 2011, I made this documentary that that has just done, it's performed so well, and it's won loads of film festivals all over the world. But her motto, I remember it was probably 2012 when we went to America for this treatment. And in the film, you see her distraught, crying. And she goes, I just realized I've just got to get on with it. And Ray and I were talking about what it is. And he said, it really is intentional thinking. And I told Hannah that when she was alive. And she really liked that. She really liked the idea of intentional thinking, because Hannah used to smoke. Hannah used to drink. She had a brain tumor. She stopped smoking. She stopped drinking. She became very intentional about what she ate, to the point where she actually wrote a cookbook. She was very intentional about her work. She was a great teacher, actually, to me, about being intentional. I had to be very intentional about the way I looked after her.
mm,
A lot of my life with her was about looking after her. And obviously, I don't regret that at all. I'm very pleased that I took on that role, but I had to do it intentionally. I couldn't do it half-heartedly. And I kind of feel like I've come full circle in where I am, right now. And you can imagine, in making a film that was one of the hardest things I've ever done, I had to stop. I had to be intentional about it. I had to, like you said, I had to block out the noise. I allowed myself to grieve. I looked at all of the memories uh, that we had, but I wanted to make something that is a great representation of who this person was, who this person still is, and how intentional they were. But what I've realized, MJ, is that now I'm doing that work on myself. And as I said, I've taken on a brand new client, and I've taken on myself. I'm going to do the coaching that I've been doing with you. I'm doing that on myself, and I'm ready for serious transformation by being more intentional than I've ever been in my entire life. And I've never said that publicly. So here you go. That's a first. It's an exclusive. I've got a
ooh,
brand new client.
you.
It's me.
And, the fact that there's an exclusive alongside me, it just makes my heart sing. Because the impact that Hannah and you and the journey that we took together wasn't 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 I wasn't aware of where it would lead. And if we're talking about legacy, and I'd like you to talk about Hannah's legacy in a minute, about what maybe not disclosing anything you don't want to, but about what happened after, and kind of, I remember getting gifts in the post and things you did on mountains and stuff. But um I didn't realize that my experience of people who were moving over to the next part of this experience from this, earthly plane, were going to be part of my life going forward in such an intentional way that I'm preparing for the time when I'm alongside people who make a decision now legally in this country to
Yeah.
make a day that they decide to move over. So they're going to book their appointment, right?
This is
And
assisted dying, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
And and it very much looks likely that it will be 2030 when if that choice is then something that as a practitioner, because I'm training in social work, I'm a special educational needs. You know what I've done? I'm a teacher, I'm a psychotherapist, I've trained in therapy and counselling, psychotherapy and counselling. And um and I never imagined, in fact, I was very against it, because they put a DNAR on me, a do not artificially resuscitate in hospital. Without choice, I felt it was imposed upon me. And I think anything that's imposed upon us, somebody tells us to do something, they're not going to do it, are they? But if you're asked to, it's a different when you make a choice. So I was very against it. And Hannah has been, and many others, but Hannah has been part of the fact that as I go through, I realize that actually I'm quite adept with people when they are moving into a transitional phase, and that I'm okay with moving over because I've been, I died during
COVID.
COVID, but for minutes, and so I know where I'm going, which is a really peaceful thing to have, and maybe that understanding that I have about my journey might help people on theirs. And my PA, my Charles, my PA said to me this morning, but I know that you will leave no stone unturned with somebody if that's a decision they make, to examine whether there's anything else that they'd like to do
Mm.
before that decision is theirs. And so, and another colleague of mine said, if anyone was going to talk to me about that choice, I would dream for it to be you, MJ. Now, there's going to be a specific role, they believe. There's going to have to be for a social worker that trains to choose to be there. And I never in a million years would have imagined that I would want to be able to help, guide, be alongside, promote, expand the needs, the wishes, the wants, the dreams, the desires, which, let's face it, is all I've ever done. It's just I never imagined it would be for somebody to make all of their choices about everything, everywhere, all of the time, even though that's probably been my dream.
Well, something like that, again, you have to be very intentional about it, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we're
Just,
being honest, there's two things that well, when you're born, there's only one guarantee, right? And that's that it's going to end. And to be there with people at the end is, well, different people view that in different ways, but for some people that's a privilege. I mean, I was there with, as you know, I say I lost. I've got to stop saying that. I haven't lost. I don't feel I've lost anything.
she's in the
They
cupboard.
passed over, they transitioned,
Yeah.
my dad and then my mum and then my wife. And I was there. I just missed my dad passing, but I got there just a few minutes afterwards. I was there with my mum holding her hand, and I was there holding Hannah's hand with my brother. My brother was there with my mum as well. And this is the other big thing, MJ, that I'm doing much more intentionally, and that's celebrating the lives of people who have poured into me. And now I'm celebrating my life in a completely different way. And I celebrate your life, as you said, you died a couple of times. And I remember one day thinking, this is the day you'll die. When we spoke on Clubhouse, you were in hospital, you couldn't breathe. I thought, she's not even going to make the end of the day, especially when you said, I need to get fit. I was going, this isn't going to happen. I was so wrong about you. So wrong. It's ridiculous how wrong I was about you, because when I look at the person that you were, on loads of medication, extremely unwell, extremely unhealthy, now you're a tower and a power of strength, mentally, physically, emotionally, because of how intentional you are. And what's such a great reminder of you. As I say, you were like a role model to me because you've made that connection that was, I don't know how difficult or challenging it was to make that connection. If I really want to make a bigger difference in this outer world, and you've dedicated your life and been there for people. I mean, the stories you told me of turning up to court for people you were looking after who didn't have a voice. You couldn't even get in the court because there was no ramp for you to get in on your chair, but you're still there. The lengths that you would go so intentionally in the outside world, like me, to make a difference to people's lives.
Yes.
But what you've done is you've just made this connection of, all right, if I want to do that on another level, I've got to be super intentional about how I think, how I talk, how I move. You called it the Magnificent Seven. That's something that we're working on. And I know you loved this idea when I told you, because we're going to change the name of the Magnificent Seven, because we're going to call it the Daily Seven. This is something that we'll be, putting out there at some point in the next year or so, I would imagine, in just helping people be intentional about how they eat, how they sleep, how they move, how they think, how they, the whole 7 key areas, how they eliminate. Actually, we're going to have a better word than eliminate. We're going to use the word release. There you go. The better word than eliminate. So release what comes out, release what comes out. You like
Love
that
it.
word, don't you?
I love it. I love it. I love it because
But I want to also
yeah,
just
go
say
on.
something else, because I know this is
Oh,
your show. This is your show. I'm taking over. But
no,
there have
you
been
don't.
people watching this who don't know you, because obviously I'll share it. And your business, what you've done, what you've created is amazing. You've built a business from nothing, but just how helpful you were to Hannah. Disability is something that, like a lot of things, people think, well, that'll never happen to me. And the reality is, it's going to happen to all of us. We're all going to become less able, however you want to phrase that.
Mm,
But when Hannah had cancer for the second time in the brain, much deeper than the first, this time, and this was in 2021, she couldn't move properly. She couldn't talk properly, and you were just unreal. You and your organization made it possible for her to have a car, which was part of the mobility scheme. You made it possible for her to be paid for some of the work that to be assisted in the work that she was doing.
mm,
You showed up in a way that was, again, super intentional, and I know Hannah was so grateful for that. And you were there. You came to
mm,
her funeral. You've met Hannah, and I'm so grateful that you had, because you know she made a difference. She was quiet, but she was just she is the most incredible soul. So, and she'd be so happy you and I talking together right now.
I have a bit of a challenge because, of course, I don't know whether I can imagine here very well or whether I have a connection that's deeper than that. But the individuals that I support sometimes, even when they're still alive, I know what they're doing, and I know when there's a challenge, and I will just either drop a text or I'll know they're ringing and I think that there's two things here in this is that you know even the day that Hannah went into the hospice, the message I left her, I left it and I didn't know she was going in the hospice. And the message I left her was literally as she was going in the hospice, which was really weird because it was only Kate that told me later. I said, "Oh, it's right. I messaged Hannah, but she didn't answer." She went, "Well, no, because Pete was taking her in that day." And I've played that message back a few times actually because it's a silly message. And it was just after you'd been putting up your gym in the garden, and we've been fairly a couple of weeks or a few weeks before laughing about it. And so my energy of Hannah, you know, Hannah's move to the hospice and then move over was actually very beautiful, very beautiful. And so being at her funeral was a pleasure and a privilege and an honour, and it was fun and it was a celebration, as you so pertinently said. And to turn up before I say that our organisation, well, I, as the founder, expect our organisation to put our mouth where the money is, and our because actually we turn up before anybody else does, and we do that because the support, the service, the gift, the knowledge and information and help and advice and guidance and help that we can, give, provide, offer, because people take it up or they don't, right? You can tell them something, lead others to water, can't make it drink. I believe is really important to share. Like, I trained as a Reiki practitioner. For me, even though I was told to charge for that up front, I believe it's an important thing to share. I've always tithed, and I believe that when I share my energy freely with people,
Yeah.
with an intention that I'd like to get paid, right? Then I believe it sets up a different energy. And I think I've proved it, and I wanted to prove it on a massive scale, and I wanted to prove it again and again, and I have done. And I believe that gifting is amazing because I know I can feel that energy connection now. What I'm coming on to is I need to make money. I have to make a lot of money to make a lot of difference. And I don't want to make a lot of money in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable. And there are lots of ways that making money would make me feel uncomfortable, not because I don't have a good relationship with money, but because I understand it's a tool. So when I was introduced to something that changed my life, and there have been pivotal people and incidents and behaviors and practices, like giving up my sugar, giving up all the things I've given up, chosen to release, right? But the addition of that, I can only call it a magical mushroom, because when I say they're magic, people go, "You taking magic mushrooms?" To be honest, if I was and they did this, I would. No, I'm taking magical mushrooms, right? A Ganoderma luteum, the mushroom of everlasting life, I think they call it, don't they? You know, you shared a cup of coffee and you said, "Do you want some free coffee?" And I'm like, "Well, I want whatever you're on." That's what I was thinking. I don't care what you're on, really. If it had been, magic mushrooms, I might have been tempted, even though, as I told you, I was never going to take one again. How I was telling Kate earlier, many, many moons, 25 years ago, it was something I tried, and I didn't take enough, and I said I would never do it again. But then, so now I'm actually drinking more mushrooms. Tell me about how you and Hannah, why, and you shared a cup of coffee, and it's changed my life.
Well,
But
it's
I have to be
interesting.
intentional about it.
I was actually looking to see because there was one of the mushrooms in here, but
Hang on.
I can't see it.
Let me show you, because
Oh,
the
there she.
thing
Oh, I gave it to you. There you go. She stole that from my house. No, she
I
didn't. I gave it
didn't.
to her.
I was gifted
I
it by
gave
you.
I
I
gave
was,
her that. That
I was
that that's a reishi mushroom. It's also known as Ganoderma or
loose.
lingshi.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting you to bring that out or us to talk about that, but obviously I'm more than happy to talk about it because it's one of the things I'm probably most passionate about, and it is the thing I have most consistently put in my body for the last 15 years, pretty much every single day, and the spores, which is a part of the mushroom. So, where to start? Well, first off, I came across this because of Hannah. So, when Hannah was originally diagnosed in 2011, she had a massive epileptic fit, rushed to hospital, and she wasn't given very long to live. They operated. They found some very aggressive cells in the tumor they took out. Radiotherapy. The tumor was coming back very, very fast. I found a treatment in America. A load of us got together, as you know, together we're better. For me, the my 365, turn the MI, it's the we. I know for you it's the us. However you want to phrase it, there is nothing more powerful than when humans actually come together. There's just nothing. It's just
Totally.
figuring stuff out on your own. Humans don't do very well on their own. And in fact, the only reason that we have trees is because of mushrooms and the mycelium, which is the interconnection between all the trees that allow the trees to be nourished, allow the trees to do what the trees do for us to breathe air. I mean, there is so much to this, but I wanted Hannah to see a nutritionist when we were in America. I'm sure everybody knows how important nutrition is. And Hannah had cancer before. She'd had what's known as precancerous cells in her cervix. And we just, sometimes in life, be careful what you wish for, because we were in the hospital where Hannah was being treated, and a little boy came in who had a brain tumor, and his mum just said, "Oh, we've just been to see Dr. Rakowski." And I went, "Rakowski? I know that name, Rakowski." I thought, I wonder if it's that guy that is often talked about at the health and fitness conventions that I used to speak at. It was. And the next day, we're in his office. Hannah didn't want to be there. She was not in a good way. He did some tests on her. He looked at her blood, her urine, her saliva. And I never forget it, MJ. I mean, I filmed it, so I've seen it a couple of times. He came back in, he sat down with his clipboard. I was filming him. He was sitting next to Hannah, and he says to both of us, "How does a tornado start?" I'm thinking, why is he asking me that question? I don't know. How does a hurricane start? I wasn't expecting, geography questions. And he said, the conditions have to be right. I went, oh. Then he said, how does cancer start? And I went, oh, the conditions have to be right. Yes. So how do you change the conditions? Well, I'm not a doctor, but you listen to enough people and they'll tell you the way you can treat cancer is definitely, you can take it out in many cases. You can radiate it. You can put chemotherapy in. You can change your diet. You can change your thinking. There's lots of things that people can do, but to change the environment. And he put Hannah on a ketogenic diet, which was basically cutting out all sugars. And he just said, look, if you drink coffee, drink this. I didn't think anything of it. The coffee was infused with that mushroom. That mushroom, if anyone goes to PubMed, biggest medical database in the world, you'll see when I first started working with this, there were 1,200 studies on this mushroom. There's now over 3,600. Why? That's another question. But basically, pharmaceutical companies, they're looking to make drugs from things that exist in nature. I've been consuming it every single day. I know that you have. In fact, Dr. Ray, who won't mind telling you, who was very skeptical about this, very skeptical. And skepticism isn't a bad thing. Skepticism might be, well, I'll make up my own mind. He drinks it every single day. And I have hundreds of people that drink this every single day and just feel better. And in fact, two stories. When Hannah got re-diagnosed, I haven't told many people this story. She had some scans. One of the doctors called me. In fact, I think I was in here, and said, can I ask you, what's Hannah been doing? I said, what do you mean? He goes, I've just looked at the recent scan. She hasn't started the treatment, but there's already significant changes. And I didn't even know. And I told Hannah, she said, well, the only thing I've been doing is she had quadrupled the amount of spore powder, which is in one of the coffees, but it's in a capsule. The spore is when the mushroom germinates. So it's the babies of the mushroom. It's the most potent part. That was the only thing that Hannah had done. And I told the doctor, and he looked at some of the research on it. And of course, you can't make medical claims about things like this.
Nope.
But you, the other person, you were on so many medications. How many medications were you on?
26, I think. 27, I think, at the worst. I was injecting 3 times a day. I was on medication that they wouldn't allow off the ward. I had it at home because my gut was in so much of a mess. Because I've had operations on it, it already went into spasm. It already had parts removed from it that were rotten. Because I'd been eating wrong to the point that allergic, I have a leaky gut, I'm autistic. And a leaky gut leads to everything you eat, kind of like fermenting. Yeah, but it ferments in the gut because it stays longer. Then it goes through the wall, then it goes into the bloodstream and it affects the brain and it affects everything. And so I needed to heal my gut. And the doctors had tried everything. 27 different medications, hospitalization, 3 weeks in hospital at a time in Manchester, Wythenshawe. I used to go in with Dr. Dr. Warwell, and I have to say that carefully because I didn't call him that the first time I ever met him. and and he had me they had me, nasally feeding. They had me on nil by mouth. They had me on. I mean, the pain I was in was pethidine injectable. I mean, I have a tough pain threshold. I've had a duplex reureter reimplantation, lots of operations, but my gut health was so bad that my gut really just screwed me. And the only thing that began the healing journey, I'm telling you, I mean, no, it isn't, I'm lying. It was also the fact that these, for me, right, I didn't let go of sugar, it let go of me. I didn't let go of how I ate, it let go of me. It released me because it changed my gut biome and then that changed the messages my gut gave me. and then that allowed me to make the change. It's an easer. It eased me into something that I didn't even know was happening. I didn't know it was happening. I just enjoyed the drinks. When I realized it was happening, I mean, when it first happened, it was quite an intense
I
response.
actually remember.
I
Some
got a bit
people, when
cross.
the first couple of times, if they've taken lots of drugs, because Ganoderma is very detoxifying for the liver. There's no known toxicity. There's no known drug interaction. You can't really overdose on this stuff. But for some people who have taken a lot of medication, it can have a big detoxifying effect. That happens maybe 1 or 2 people out of 100, and you were definitely one of those people. And I'm so glad that you carried on, because a lot of people might have thought, oh God, this is wrong, I'm not doing this. But your transformation with this is beyond, it's incredible. So how
Well,
many medications do you take now?
none.
I mean,
Nothing.
I mean,
Nothing for 2 years, nothing. But I didn't let go of it all at once. What happened was I stopped getting reflux because my gut was settled. I stopped eating things because my gut wasn't asking for it. So I could let go of the bloody horrible, Gaviscon. And then I thought, well, what am I taking omeprazole for when it's going to keep the gut acid from coming up? Because I don't need it now. Let's try without it for a day or two or three or four. And slowly they let go of
intentionally,
me.
intentionally, you
Yes.
did it really intentionally. And again, I just take my hat off to you by just doing things slowly, methodically, which has not been my strength. Uh,
Morphine. I was
Morphine.
on morphine. I was on 120. I was on 500 milliliters of Oromorph a week for the pain. Then they put me on Oxycontin, which is hillbilly heroin,
Yeah.
and I took myself off that too.
See, it's incredible. I have so many stories that I've collected
Yeah,
over the years, and it's actually the Japanese name is reishi, and it means the herb of immortality. The Western name Ganoderma means shiny skin. Gano means shine in Latin, and dermalogical. And in Chinese, it's called Lingxi, which I think means orb of spirituality. Something that, but for the Chinese, it was reserved. Literally just for the royal family. And the thing is that there are things in nature that are just super, super, super powerful, that are here
absolutely.
for us, for us to enjoy. Um, so yeah, I'm so glad. Again, it's part of Hannah's legacy. But you did ask me about Hannah's legacy, and
I did.
I'm happy to share that. I
Yeah.
made this film, and again, we haven't said too much about this, but we will be. We've made another little film actually, which at some point in the next couple of months maybe we'll post it, which kind of shows what happened. Because so I made this film. It was ridiculously difficult. I made it with a friend of mine because I needed help. You actually met this guy called Lindley Gooden, who from Green Screen Productions. It was one of the hardest things he did, but we did it together, and we did it like, I don't know whether anyone that's watching this, you did something because it was something you had to do. It wasn't about what was going to happen as a result of it. It was just something you had to do, something you were proud of, something that you would look at and go, this is something, this means something to me. Of course I wanted other people to see it, but I didn't make it for that. And with also when I went to America, I was with Dr. Ray, and we looked at the film, and he kind of said, look, you need to put a bit at the beginning, a bit at the end, a couple of different, which meant going back to it again. It's like, oh please, it was so hard, now you want me to go back and film a bit at the beginning and a bit at the end. And we did that. And then a friend of mine who works in television, I talked to him, and he said, speak to my friend who's a filmmaker. Spoke to him. He said, why don't you enter into film festivals? And I went, well, how do you do that? And like many things, it's not difficult. Entered it into film festivals, and it got turned down, turned down, turned down, turned down. Just like me, when I was young, got turned down to universities, polytechnics, got turned down for all the books that the first book I wrote, no one wanted to publish it. But I still kept entering it, entering it. And then the Cannes Film Festival, one of the judges really resonated with the film. She'd also recovered from breast cancer. She put it forward. It won. And now it's won multiple film festivals around the world, in Los Angeles and Hollywood, in Dublin, in Stockholm, in Athens. And soon the whole world, not the whole world, but many people around the world will be inspired by Hannah. There's a medical paper that's been published about the way she responded to this treatment in Germany in 2021, which was literally, I would say, it was a miracle. Putting two viruses in her brain that triggered an immune response, came back from not being able to move properly to be able to move, to be able to talk, to be able to work. I mean, you saw that
I did.
transformation.
I did.
But unfortunately, circumstances, and she got COVID, which seems to affect her quite badly, and who knows exactly what. But Hannah had an amazing life, and she's part of me. I lived my life with her for 13 years. I am who I am because of my time with her. I'm not just her, but I am her. I carry her with me, and now the person I've become inside because of her is something I want to share with the world. And this whole just getting on with it is intentional thinking. And over the next few years, I'm excited about waking more people up to the power of intentions. It's just that I've still got a fair bit of work to do on myself, which is, I mean, we all have, right? We've all got something that we can do to improve our lives. I've just got to align my inner world and my outer world a little bit more strategically, intentionally, which I'm looking forward to. And I'm looking forward to continuing this journey with you, MJ. I feel so lucky to know you. I think about you and I just feel powerful. I feel strong. I feel fortunate because, on our own, we're not particularly useful. But together, I mean, what can't we do?
Well, if we're limitless, then what excuse is there? And if I believe in you, and I do because I've seen it, right? I can see you. Can't see me. I'm looking out from me. But I see you. When I see your intentionality, then I see mirrored mine. And the more you see mine, then you say I'm a role model and I say I'm your super fan, then there's only one way, and that's up. There's only one way with our vibrational code, and that's beyond ourselves. The result of that interaction, as I alluded to with the magical mushrooms, is that, in my opinion, neuroplasticity, which is how our brain grows, and the fact that mine was not growing as well as it should because it had, deposits from the stage 4 endometriosis. I have shapes on my brain that they say is like a scar, little bleeds and things, um, and 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 I knew from what I'd learned that you can grow neural pathways around those areas. People that have got, like one lady that we met on Clubhouse, it turned out that she had a massive island of water in the middle of her brain. Alexia, she's got a
Yeah.
very rare brain dysfunction that means that she's got a massive water island in the middle of her brain. So a massive water puddle, of brain fluid in the middle, where between the two bits. And I believe that you can grow around that. And so I said to her, just as she was already on your mushrooms as if they're yours, but on these. And she said, it's changed that. I couldn't get on the floor and now I can, and I couldn't do this and now I can. Well, she's older than me. But I saw that. And I don't think she was daft. Remember, I was quite skeptical. And then I had the response. Now, the response to the mushrooms, I thought any occurrence has a post happening. So if something very powerful is happening, there's going to be something on the back of that. There's got to be.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to stick with it, particularly when there were other people that were showing me that seemed logical. So that's why I stayed intentional. I checked out my evidence. I checked out my understanding. I checked out my reflection. I checked out other people's experience. I didn't hold it as mine. I just looked at it and wondered whether it could be. And I looked at the harm potential. And I checked out with Dr. Bob Rakowski, didn't I? Remember, I texted you. I said, I need hold. I was a lot of people around me were a little bit, concerned that I'd just gone off on one and suddenly I wasn't pharmaceutical. I wasn't pharmaceutical queen, and my medication used to be collected by my carers in 3 carrier bags, and they weren't allowed to collect it without my passport and their
Yeah.
passport, you know. So look, I think no, it's in this personal development world, which by the way I didn't know existed until I met you. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, well,
I didn't understand you. So I had to study because I had to lean in. I didn't understand you. I didn't understand your language patterns. I didn't understand why they were in such repetitive patterns. I didn't appreciate what it was for. And then when I realized that actually what you were doing was showing your intention to things, really talking about what your intentional behavior had been, what I got was, as I said at the beginning when I introduced you, mic drops, right? So I got moments in time when, and I've had this reflected to me now that I will say something that seems fairly, fairly banal. I think it is. And people will say that's profound. And you do the same thing. You seem to summarize things in a really profound way. Things like, what's important now, for me, what's important next, all those little acronyms, all those hacks, all those ways, all those tips, all those ways you've hacked your own brain, a bit like
mm,
I've hacked mine with this. I mean, there's so many. I'd love to say, oh, it was this one that changed me, but
yeah,
I can't think. What would you say to somebody? I mean, that has never met you or me. Which one of the millions that I've listened to on Clubhouse, hour upon hour, and on an hour? Remember how many hours I've listened to you, right?
yeah. I mean, it was a lot of time. It's
Mm,
amazing actually when you create space for others, and that's all I did for you. I just created space for you, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Just create space for you to be heard, to you to be. That's all I did, and was that difficult? No, it was the easiest thing I ever did. Just create space. Um, what's the most important element? I think what you were asking is
mm,
everybody's different, but I think it all starts with thinking.
mm.
And for me, that's where it's really heavily focused on right now. How am I thinking?
It's
What am I thinking? How am I feeling as a result of what I'm thinking? And what what I've realized myself in the world of personal development is, well, professional development really for me
mm,
is a direct correlation to my personal development. And I this is very deep, maybe a conversation for another day. But what I'm saying here is that I like the idea of personally developing myself, but I think the most important thing I've done or I'm doing is to stop and look at the parts of myself that I've kept hidden, you know?
mm-hmm,
And that's where working with someone to address the parts of myself, my trauma, my issues around rejection and wanting acceptance, they're things that all of the personal development in the world, I don't believe is going to make any difference without looking at what is the experience of being myself? What am I thinking? And I know we can change the way we think. I know that can happen for many people really quite quickly. There are tools, there are techniques, there are strategies, there's physical things that people can do, there's psychological things that people can do. But it all starts with awareness. For me, to stop and become aware. And I'm looking forward to sharing more with people moving forwards about how we can all be more intentional and just get on with it. But that's the key thing, MJ. Just getting on with it doesn't mean pull your socks up and just get on with it. It's actually no, it's the opposite of that. It's the opposite of go. It's the mean stop. Let's get on with it, which is going inside and
mm.
doing the greatest work of our lives. And I have to say this. I've said it maybe a few times. I'm blowing so much smoke your way, and I'm not saying this to you to make you feel uncomfortable. I'm saying it because it's the truth. That I know we're all works in progress, but in terms of all the people I know that have taken the time to just get on with it, you are. We should be giving you an award for that.
Well,
So I want to thank you.
I want to thank you. I'm going to listen. There's something been in my heart and mind since we started talking, and something that my dad didn't say much, to be honest. And he died, unfortunately, in a road traffic accident when I was 17. So I didn't get any adult time with my dad, and he didn't live with me, us from kind of, the age of 10 before my operation. Um, so I only really, and he was at work most of the time, and sometimes he lived away. But he said something to me very young. He said, "You know what? There's only two things you've got to do in life. and I didn't understand it at the time, and it took me until about 6 months ago to work it out because I'm a bit slow sometimes, right? Um, be straight down the line. He was a simple man. Be straight down the line and always keep your eye on your own horizon. Yeah, be straight down the line and always keep your eye on your own horizon, because the noise outside, the others, their business, not yours. Just be straight. So get yourself into alignment is the way I'm now interpreting it. And look at where you're going in order to get there. Now, what shape does that make?
Well, that's maybe a conversation for another day.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I mean, what does a day look like for you? Because I'm always fascinated with that, right? I wish I could be a fly or a, I don't know, on your wall, and actually go, right, what happens then? And then what does he do in the gym? I don't know. I
Well,
just think you're fascinating.
thank you, thank you. What's been massively transformational, and it's only been a recent thing, is rather than getting up every day and thinking about what I'm doing for everybody else in terms of my work, getting up every day and thinking, right, I'm working on myself. What do I want to do for me? And I'm enjoying that like nobody's business. I have a sauna out there. I have a red light table. I have a power plate. I was actually supposed to be walking 100 kilometers starting tomorrow, but I've injured the outside of my left foot. So I'm not doing that. Eat well, live well. But you've heard me say this before, MJ. I honestly feel like I'm just getting started. And,
I love
I just want to finish by not only saying thank you to you, but I want to also say thank you to Mandela, who is another guy that we met on
it.
Clubhouse that we've been working with for this is the 5th year as well. He looks after 101 children. We've raised money for him, and it's been one of the most amazing projects that I've ever been a part of. And you and a number of other people have been instrumental in making this thing happen. So if anyone wants to, can I put this in there? If
Yes,
anyone wants to
please do. Put it in, because look,
go fund
when
me.
it's true, I've been funded by the International Federation of Social Workers. I'm sitting here with my BASWOR badge on because I'm a member of the British Association of Social Workers. Please share it, because international social work, the globalization of social work, we have to bring social workers into this country, and we have to take social workers into other countries, because we have to work globally, i.e. together. It is about us. We know it is. It's not about you. It's not about me. It is about us. And Mandela, and the story of that, and the fact that we can create in the future opportunities for disabled social workers to do international social work, means that we can open the door to social workers who can't get placements, and I'm one of them. So I'm opening the door for other people before they open the door for me, and I'm doing that deliberately, and I'm doing it intentionally.
Well, one of the things that I made a video, I posted it here. One of the things that I've asked people to do is to walk for me. So, and I was thinking about that for you. The fact is, well, you can't do that for me in the way that other people can. But this is what you're so good at doing, is you just find a way. Is there a chat on here, right? I think there is. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know
there
whether
is. It should
I want,
be. Let me see. Yeah,
I
hang
want
on. It's on the. There's a comments. If there are comments,
to
here we
send
are.
this to your
So,
audience. Can you see it? I
share
think
your
you.
referral link.
I think
Let
you
me
can
see.
pass it on.
Can I?
Yes. Well, we'll soon find
Okay.
out. Or I can share my screen.
Yeah. Why don't
Uh,
you share your screen? Are you allowed to do that?
well, I don't know. I think I can do what I want.
I think you can always do what you want with me.
Can
Yeah,
I?
always. Like forever and a day.
I'm struggling here, MJ. Just so you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Yeah.
can't we just ask them to go and look for God in action?
Uh,
Uganda.
hang on. Can you?
Let me have a look, see how rubbish we can be together. You're better than me, I think, at this.
I'm not better than you.
But this at the moment, because
Here.
I'm not.
So look. Can you see the chat between the two of us? Because if you
Yeah,
put that
hang
in the
on.
chat,
I see
or
the
even put
chat
it on the
between the two.
screen,
Oh, hang
go.
on.
Look. Put it on the screen there. Look at that. I wonder if people could write that down. Just contact either of us, and we'll send you the information.
That's
Um,
amazing.
But MJ, thank you so much. It's
No,
been a
thank
pleasure.
you.
Let's do this again sometime. Thank you to
Yeah,
Kate, who's
absolutely.
been behind the scenes
What about if
working on
people
this.
want to get in touch, though, before we go? I mean, they know how to get in touch with me. I've left the website
Just
for.
message me.
Uh,
Message me.
okay.
Send me a
Well,
pigeon.
look, they only have to Google you, right? Because you're
Yeah,
everywhere.
Google me.
Keep
Google
going,
me.
keep going. Google me. Google me. You'll find me everywhere. And me.
Have a nice, enjoy your evening.
And you, thank you so much. I want to say thank you for the time you've given me. And I know I've stolen some more, but I'll always steal your time if I can,
Good. I'll
because I
steal
think
your
I
time.
love it. I think we learned so much, right? Have a great, great weekend.
Cheerio, everybody.
Thanks, Pete. Bye. Bye, everyone. We're going now. Look, that was Pete Cohen. And I know I stayed too long. I don't think I did. I was going to ask him a last question, which was, if you had a magic wand, what would you do with it? And I'll tell you what I'd do with it. I would interview people like Pete Cohen every single day because I think I get more out of it than I have to give, which is interesting because I turn up here because I want you to share in the people that I care about, travel with, have been supported by, and who have encouraged me to be greater tomorrow than I am today. And I want to say thank you to all my guests, everyone that's been so far. Look, if you're in the UK and you have a disability, or you're at work right now and you're thinking it's too much now, I haven't the capacity to go into work because there are things about work that I can no longer do, like I don't know, climb the stairs. Maybe you've been put in a little cupboard, which happens to some people, that they've made a space somewhere but away from your team, and it's just a bit hard. Anything like that. If you're suffering with a challenge at work because you're being bullied or othered or mothered or smothered, any of those, mental, physical, or emotional, those things that affect you that you go to the GP for, if any of those things are you, then the Access to Work program is a really great way of finding the things that you can get help with. So please do just click on that link and have a look. I have a couple of other websites, so if you want to Google me, you might find some. And my own speaking brand, because I have been practicing this for months and months and months and years now, is MJ Speaks. It's a new website, and I'll be sharing it next time as I speak to the people that have been intrinsic in helping me create that. So I've been Mandy J. Mace, I've been MJ, and I've been speaking with the marvelous Pete Cohen, and we've been on First Friday Live. So next month on the first Friday, you'll find us here. And you'll find me with the most amazing guests because the universe brings you what you put out, in my opinion. And look what it brought me today. The amazing, incredible, incredibly fantabulous Pete Cohen. Have a great weekend, everyone. I'm going to go and relax and enjoy my Friday evening. And don't forget, it's the harvest moon this weekend. It's incredibly powerful. Set your intentions. Set them under the harvest moon. Sunday about 7, I think it is, 7 p.m. Set your intentions Saturday night under the harvest moon. Sunday as well. Clean your crystals. Set your intentions. Let go of what you don't need. Be intentional. Maybe go and follow Pete's 30-day program. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Go and search for it. It changed my life. When you finished it, you can go and have an hour with Pete. I know you've had one here, but you can have a one-to-one with nobody else there. And I just think he's great. So yeah, hit the link if you want to. Go to the GoFundMe. Help me create opportunities for disabled social workers internationally to go and do social work across the water in Uganda with our 101 children and our incredible team out there. Please. And if you're going to walk and you find Pete Cohen, go and walk for him, run for him, swim for him, move for him, roll for him. I'm not bothered. See how many miles and then go and comment on it. I think I've overwhelmed you all, but have a great weekend. Bye bye. See you in a month.